With today's video, I'm really excited because I want to turn those few ingredients into a stunning fig tart like this. Instead of just sticking to the classic version of making a fruit tart from puff pastry, I wanted to push the boundaries and come up with several improvements as well as a few experiments to create an absolutely unforgettable fig tart. I thought of two versions, and let me tell you, the second version, I do think it is an absolutely masterpiece. It's that crispy and that refreshing, but then, as so often, I could be all wrong, and we might end up being with the first version being the winner, but let's find out when we taste it. So let's get straight into it. Both versions use the same ingredients, and as you can see, it is not a difficult recipe. Figs, sugar, puff pastry, vanilla, and a bit of egg wash and some pine nuts if you want, and that's all. Now, what I wanted to focus on the most was to make my fig tart light and fluffy with the crispiest puff pastry layers possible. And that's why I found my first major problem, and that was that if I just make my fig tart the traditional way, the crust on the sides always seems to turn out perfect, but when I look underneath, it's undercooked and raw. Now you wonder, how could that be? Well, it's pretty simple. The wet fruit does not even get close to boiling and therefore never cooks the pastries raw. So the fruit is too cold and too wet to cook that pastry fully. And never makes it nice and crispy. It's basically a fail. I mean, who likes to eat raw puff pastry dough? So I had to think about how could I fix that, and I came up with a genius idea, and I will show you that in a minute. So for both tarts, I started out exactly the same way, and I knew that when I owned and managed some of Europe's best restaurants, that fig skin are not great for baking, as they somehow turn a bit chewy. So in order to have my figs all creamy, I cut them out like so and got rid of the skins. No, there's no need to throw the skins out. Instead, I placed them into a blender. I turned them into a smooth, creamy puree. And yes, I added some port wine to it too for extra flavor. Then half the fig puree I placed into a stock pot. To that I added 2/3 of my caster sugar. And then I split open my vanilla bean and scraped out the seeds. I mixed the seeds with the remaining caster sugar, and yes, that is how you make real vanilla sugar, and it looks beautiful too. And let me tell you, it smells fantastic. And I bet it probably tastes even better. But let's find out in a minute when I will be using this real vanilla sugar to season my figs. The vanilla skin I then added to my fig puree, and then I cooked it down by approximately a quarter to create a really light fig jam. Delicious. But when it came to the boil, I quickly found out that the fig puree is too thick and sort of started to spit all around, a bit like an exploding volcano. So I topped it with a baking paper cartouche, and that stopped the spitting immediately. That was such an easy trick, and when I finished, I folded the cartouche and wiped the remaining jam out. Now that can really burn your finger, like it did in my case, but I'm a bit used to it. So this is my fig jam, and I need to tell you, it smells and tastes absolutely delicious. And then I cut out some circles of puff pastry, and next I cut out the second circle, which I need for the sides. Removed the center to create a ring and placed it onto the first disc, and that's all. Very simple, as you can see. And then I brushed it with some egg wash, and then I arranged some pine nuts to make it look very pretty and to add an extra flavor, some texture to my tart. Then I topped the center with my fig paste. I also added some pine nuts, you can do that if you want to, and then I finished it off with the sliced figs. And yes, let's not forget about our true vanilla sugar. It looks stunning, and that's how you make a traditional fig tart. I then baked it at 220 degrees Celsius for approximately 20 minutes, and look at that. Doesn't that just look to die for? But then I looked underneath, and yes, as predicted, the pastry is completely undercooked. The wet fruit didn't do it. So to fix it, my idea was to cook it a second time. And for that I heated a cast iron pan on the medium to low heat for 1 minute, and I placed the fig tart on it and slowly baked it from underneath for another 3 to 4 minutes, and look at that. It really surprised me how well it did turn out. And this has almost turned out perfect. But I know there's still a little bit of undercooked dough right underneath the fruit, which I couldn't reach even with my double cooking method. And that's when I realized there's another problem. And that was that the figs turned out very soft and mushy, and they started to let a lot of the juices go. It's not what I wanted. And that got me thinking, how could I make the pastry even more crunchy all the way through, while at the same time I keep my figs much more interesting in terms of maintaining their natural texture. So I thought I cooked the pastry separately like you do for vol au vent. But when I did that, I found that the pastry did not keep its shape. It rose uneven and it looked a bit wonky. So I remember the technique my pastry chefs used when I used to be an executive head chef for Marco P. White back in London, and that was to cook the puff pastry between 2 elevated trays to suppress it a little and create an even more even rising. And yes, as you can see, that worked perfectly. That little trick I remembered after all those years seemed to make all the difference. And then I removed any leftover soggy layers from within the circle, just like that. And of course I did not throw that out, and let me tell you, I tasted it. It tasted delicious, and it gave a bit of an idea what's about to come. I ended up with a puff pastry shell that is crispy, crunchy, delightfully light, and that is exactly what I wanted. So I'm sure you're thinking, what have I done with the other half of the fig puree? Well, I wanted to add a real magic contrast to my fig tart. I could have gone off and just get some ice cream or some mascarpone, but I wanted to do something much better, and that is really simple for you to do at home too. So froze the other half of the fig puree, and as you can see, it's all frozen now. So I just use a fork to scrape it all into a fig snow, or you would also call it a fig granita. Then I put it back into the freezer because it needs to be super cold so it does not melt too fast when I put it on my tart. And this will be such a refreshing contrast to the creamy figs. So since the pastry shell now is perfectly cooked, I don't actually have to worry about that anymore. So that second method is brilliant. And I also realized this would be perfect for pre-cooking my tart. And then to finish it off, I did it exactly the same way as before. I add some of my fig sauce, I top it with some figs, then I sprinkle them again with my true vanilla sugar and into the oven at the same temperature as before. I'll place all the information with the ingredients in the link below. However, this time I only cooked it for 6 to 7 minutes, just enough to melt the sugar and warm the ripe figs and cook them a little bit from the top. Then I took it out. Oh wow, voila, look at that. The figs are so much drier and they're only half cooked with no juices oozing out, while the pastry has become even more crispy. So then I just sliced up a fig and fanned it out and put it on the top, and then I scooped my granita into the center, and then I garnished it with some edible flowers. So now we have 2 fig tarts, and the question is, which one will be the better one? Now I cannot wait to see which one it is, and we will find out right now. And here we go, that's the 2 fig tarts. So maybe Anna, you can taste them with me, and then we can find out which one is the winner, which one is the better one. So you're always brutally honest with me, aren't you? So
yes, I'm the wife, by the way, so I'm brutally honest.
Don't get away with anything.
What do we have here?
So I made 2 different fig tarts.
Yep.
One is sort of a classic approach, and the other one I really sort of tried to. Yeah,
You're not going to tell me anything about them?
Oh,
okay.
You need to tell me which you think.
Pressure's on.
Which one is better. All right,
okay.
Let's go.
All right, so I start eating?
Yeah. So let's take
knife and fork or spoon and fork? I'll try and be
okay.
I'll try and be elegant whilst I'm doing this.
And crunchy,
eating in front of TV is not my forte.
There we go.
Oh, that's better. I can pick it up. And here we go. Moment of truth.
it. Hang on, taste some too.
It's nice and crunchy, the edge. I like the edge. I need to taste some more of the fig. It's very nice and crunchy, the pastry. That's lovely. It's got a nice crunch as I cut it. Nice and crunchy in my mouth. Now this part. Subtle. It's very pleasant to eat. Yeah, it's a bit sticky, the dough, but the fig is nice and soft. I wouldn't say it melts, but it just smoothly, you can eat it and it dissolves in the mouth with the crunchy pastry, which is a nice contrast. Not too heavy, surprisingly. Sometimes when you've had a big meal, you don't want to have a heavy dessert, but I would definitely go for that. And yeah.
All right, let's
Good
try
job.
the next one. Thank you.
Next.
Okay, next one. So, yeah.
Is this the worst one?
Let's find out.
I guess one's better than the other.
Okay, here we go. Let's go.
Okay. I will take this small bit.
Yeah.
Okay, now I'll cut that off. Well, this is like super crunchy. Super crunchy. I like how the layers of the pastry separate quite nicely there without falling apart. That's quite different.
Yeah.
So the difference is the pastry is super light and crunchy, and the fig is a lot lighter. This was a bit more doughy. So this one.
That's my point.
So I have to just hang on. I haven't finished yet. Hang on a minute. This is my moment because I want to be able to explain it properly. So let me just try that again. I just want to try that. Yeah, much better. So the base. This one's more doughy, that one's more light, and it's like the fig literally almost melts in your mouth on this one. Not that I expect a fig to melt in your mouth, that might be the wrong terminology, but it's just a much lighter disher, more crispy. I still like that one, but I definitely prefer that one. It's got an edge to it.
See, that's the one which I pre-baked the pastry.
Did I get it right?
Yeah, you got it right. You made me look good.
Good.
You made me look good.
Great, I'll get dinner tonight then. Like, it's interesting because both of them are still good enough to be in a Michelin-star restaurant, but this one is just better.
And check out my video on lictering, so you would have a perfect entree with the tart. Thanks so much for watching.
Bye. Definitely like that one. Interesting. I'm going to get fat, if I keep doing these tastings. Okay, I'm done.
Well, to go then, yeah.
Can I go now? I'm going to go for a run.
Okay.
You have switched it off, haven't you?
No.
Oh, he always does that to me. Switch it off. Bye.